Hello, fifth grade. It's time for history. It's Friday, the 3rd of April. We're looking at pages 179 and 180. We're going to learn about two very powerful men who began powerful industries and helped shape America. And we're looking at CompCheck 15B for this. So I'm going to first look at the questions so that I know some highlights to be looking for. So I'm at my CompCheck 15B, and I gave you templates before we left school. Number 1 says, who developed a method for making steel from iron? And number 2 says, who built the steel industry in America? Number 3, who organized the oil industry and made it prosper? And number 4, which man was the first billionaire in history and was for many years the richest man in the whole entire world, not just in America? All right, so yesterday when we did our history, we talked a lot about the age of progress and immigration, and we talked about how the gospel was spreading and really exciting time in our nation's history. And so this whole chapter is about a lot of inventions and a lot of powerful things that took place as we grew as a nation. All right, so today we're going to talk about steel and oil. Two of the richest men in American history who did a lot to change our country. One is Andrew Carnegie and one is John D. Rockefeller. You might have heard of those names before. All right, so we're going to learn more about them today. It says steel and oil, ingredients for success. I'm on page 179. The 19th century was a time of great prosperity and growth in industry. Industry is the manufacturing business, the kind of work that uses factories to make things. So when you hear the word industry, it's talking about factories that make things, all right? It's a manufacturing. Manufacturing means to create, to make. Two main products allowed American industry to grow rapidly, steel and oil. The leaders of these two industries became giants in American history. Their names were Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller. Andrew Carnegie, he sees the future of steel. For many years, iron had been the chief metal used by industry. However, there were problems with iron. It was heavy, it was expensive, and it was brittle or easily breakable. Around 1856, an Englishman named Sir Henry Bessemer developed a method of turning iron ore into steel, which is a metal that is just as strong as iron, but is much lighter and more flexible. The man who brought the steel industry to America was Andrew Carnegie. So iron was what we used to lay the railroad tracks and whatnot. And it was brittle. That means it broke easily. It would crumble easily after a lot of use. Whereas steel was more flexible, so it wouldn't break as easily. Okay, and it would last longer, more durable. All right? And so Andrew Carnegie was an immigrant. In 1848, when he was a boy of 13, his family came to America from Scotland to find a better life. Andrew's father got a job in a mill factory and soon secured a position for his son as well. At first, Andrew was paid $1.20 a week. Think about what that is a day. Since Andrew was an able and willing worker, he soon moved on to better jobs. He became a messenger boy, then a telegraph operator, then a railroad clerk, and finally a railroad supervisor. So Andrew sounds like he was a humble man, Mr. Carnegie, and he started out making only $1.20 a week, okay? And the things that raised him up to be such a huge factor in the growth of American industry was he was able and he was willing to work hard. And because of that, he moved on to better and better and better jobs. So he started out as a messenger boy, then a telegraph operator. Each job is a higher level, then a railroad clerk, and finally a railroad supervisor. As he earned more money, he used it wisely. He got involved in iron factories and prospered. Now, so let's stop again. He starts out $1.20 a week, being a messenger boy. He worked hard. He was able. He was willing to work hard. He was raised up. He got better and better jobs. But as he made more and more money with those better and better jobs pay more usually, he used that money wisely. So we see two key factors, okay? Well, let's say three. He was able, he was willing, and when he got paid for all of his hard work, and as he got raised up, he was wise. So he got involved in iron factories and prospered. However, when he saw Bessemer make steel from iron, remember iron is stronger, more flexible, more durable, Carnegie became a steel man at heart. He converted all of his factories to steel production. Converted means he changed them. People thought he was being foolish, but he disagreed. He said, quote, "The age of iron is over. The age of steel is here," he said. "All the railroads will want steel rails because their old rails break too easily. Bridges will be built of steel, and ships and tall buildings, and many other things that we don't even know about yet. The future is in steel," end quote. So iron was basically what people used. Now he can see that steel is the way to go. Some people thought he was foolish. Some people thought he didn't know what he was talking about. Some people thought he's going to waste all of his money in something that's not going to work. But he could see that steel was the way to go. And that's what we use now. That's what we build our buildings with now. They're building a new apartment they're building 2 houses across the street from me, and around the block, they're building a new apartment. And I'm seeing all kinds of steel in the foundations and whatnot of those buildings, in the walls of those buildings. So he was 100% correct. Carnegie was right. The steel industry became a huge success. And Carnegie Steel Company was the most successful of all. After many years, Carnegie was very wealthy. He felt that the best thing to do with money is to give it away for worthy causes. Another great thing about him, okay? He worked hard, he was able, he was willing, he was wise, and he was charitable. He felt that the best thing to do with money is to give it away for worthy causes. Quote, "The man who dies rich dies disgraced," end quote, said Carnegie, who spent the last, let's turn the page, years of his life giving away his fortune. Now, so he thought, it's a disgrace to die wealthy, meaning if you are wealthy, if you are rich, you should be giving that money away instead of dying and nobody getting it. It not being put to any good use. So that's a great way to live. He loved good church music, and he donated over 7,000 pipe organs to churches. When I was a little girl, we didn't have like praise music like we do now. We sang hymns, and I love hymns. They're near and dear to my heart. My father used to lead the church in the hymns, and there would be a man who played the organ. Okay. Now a pipe organ isn't just a typical organ. It's an organ with huge pipes. They're around today, but I haven't seen one in many, many years. I've only really seen one in movies. Here's an example. If you've ever seen The Sound of Music, I believe there's a pipe organ in the background when she's getting married. That's what's being played as she walks down the aisle. I can't remember her name. Her name is Julie Andrews, the actress, but the main character in The Sound of Music. Can't believe I can't remember her name right now. It'll come back to me. But I think it's Maria. Yeah, Maria. You'll see a pipe organ in the background there. So they are beautiful, huge pipes, and and the pipe and the music just comes through. It's piped through those pipes, and it's beautiful and powerful. And so he donated over 7,000 pipe organs to churches. He paid for schools and colleges. As a boy, he had loved to read, and he wanted all boys and girls to have books to read. So he began building libraries in towns throughout America. Eventually, Carnegie paid for the construction of over 3,000 public libraries. By the time of his death in 1919, Carnegie, who had once earned $1.20 a week, had given away over $350 million. Given away, meaning it was extra. He didn't even need it. So he gave it away. He didn't need it for himself. He gave it away for charities. $350 million. Started with $1.20 a week and ended up giving away $350 million. Think about that for a minute. He was able, he was willing, he was wise, he was charitable, and he was incredibly blessed and blessed our nation with libraries. And he loved the gospel. It sounds like he loved good church music with pipe organs. He was incredible, an incredible man. And if you've ever heard 3,000 public libraries, come on. If you've ever heard of Carnegie Hall, where a lot of very famous people have sang from or played music from, that's was Andrew Carnegie's, named after him, Carnegie Hall. Okay, if you've heard of that. Now, John D. Rockefeller organizes the oil industry. So we have Andrew Carnegie with steel and John D. Rockefeller with oil. It says early farmers and settlers in Pennsylvania were often bothered by a sticky black liquid that muddied their streams, that got into their streams. Then they heard from the Indians that the gooey substance had magical powers. So they bottled up the black liquid and sold it as medicine. The substance was oil. Soon people discovered that oil made a good fuel, and people flocked to Pennsylvania to pump oil out of the ground. Dozens and dozens of small petroleum companies were established. Petroleum is a word for oil. Okay, so this black, sticky ooze that they thought was a nuisance ended up being of great, great value, because we use oil in everything as a lubricant. We talked about that in science in our engine chapter 6. John D. Rockefeller lived from 1839 to 1937, lived a long life, decided that the oil industry could become successful only if someone organized it. He began to unite small companies into one big company. The results were lower prices for oil and better service to the consumer, meaning the person buying the oil. Rockefeller called his company Standard Oil. He became the first billionaire in history and was for many years the richest man in the whole world. Rockefeller lived to be 98 years old, and he gave away over $530 million during his lifetime. So we see that both Carnegie and Rockefeller were very charitable men. Gave away over $530 million during his lifetime. He created the Rockefeller Foundation, an organization that handled the huge task of giving away all that money. He had so much money, he was blessed so much and worked so hard and was so wise. He had, just like Carnegie, he had so much money that he had to create a foundation, get workers, in other words, employees, to give it away, because there was so much to give away. So think about that. Both Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller were born poor, but because America is a land of freedom, both were free to work hard and to be rewarded for their work. As a result of their labor, both became wealthy. Through their efforts, American industry grew and prospered. And through their generosity, the lives of millions have been improved in many different ways. And to this day, I'm sure we're still feeling the effects of that blessing. We go to libraries. Think about Andrew Carnegie. Maybe the library that you go to or you've been to was funded by him. So, something to think about. So think about your life and what you want to do with it. And as you are blessed financially, think about how you spend that money and the charities that you give your wealth to, and the blessing that God has given to you too. We learn a lot in history about how to live. And so think about that. I also wanted to say that just because a person might not have a lot when they're growing up. It doesn't mean that they won't be blessed and prosper. It's hard work. It's being willing. It's being able. It's going that extra mile. And right now, you know, you're having to motivate yourself while you're at home. I'm not with you to be there to lead you and guide you through your education. I'm doing the best I can from a distance with these videos, and I hope you're watching them. And what I'm doing on my end to get things to you that you need. Scanning your work so you could see where you're at, etc. We all have to work really hard inside of ourselves to prosper during this time in our education. Just a little life lesson about, you know, what you're doing now in your bedroom by yourself or on the kitchen table while you're working away. It matters towards your life now and in the future. Just like Andrew Carnegie, starting out with $1.20 a week, worked hard. And even though nobody saw him or nobody heard of him, it made a difference. So the hard work that you're doing alone in your bedroom while you're studying or you're working or you're doing in, you know, at your kitchen table or on the coffee table, what have you, it matters, okay? It matters. So keep up the good work. God sees you. He's with you. I'm with you from a distance, and I'm here to lead and guide. Make sure you watch these videos and learn from them. It's a way that we can stay connected. All right? So think about that. Hard work. It will pay off. You will prosper in your academics during this time.